Umberto Eco famously had huge libraries, huge collections of books. And I want to start from that point, from this Eco inspiration, to talk about our relationship with books. And in this thought, I'm probably going to talk to a small group of people who, like me, have a complicated relationship with books, particularly the aspect of the relationship which has to do with collecting books, book collections, our own personal libraries, and the love of books as more than objects of knowledge, more than simple objects of transferring knowledge. So Umberto Eco famously had two huge libraries in two of his apartments, one in Milan, which had probably around 30,000 books, and another library near Urbino, which had like 20,000 books. And he was very famous for collecting books in these huge numbers. There is a story also about him getting evicted from one apartment because the landlord feared that he had too many books, that the building might fall because of the weight of his library. Eco famously talked about the importance of all the books in your library that you haven't read, and Nassim Nicholas Taleb capitalizes on that idea of Eco's library he even talks about something called the anti-library, Eco's anti-library. And these are all the books in your library, in your personal collection, that you haven't read. And arguably, all these books in your collection that you haven't read matter much more than the books that you have read. And Eco says this, listen to this: it is foolish to think that you have to read all the books you buy, as it is foolish to criticize those who buy more books than they will ever be able to read. That would be like saying that you should use all the cutlery or glasses or screwdrivers or drill bits that you bought before buying new ones. And that's quite interesting. That's quite an interesting take. And here the question would be, well, reflect on your own library, on your own book collection. Have you read all these books in your library? What percentage of the books in your library have you read? And this portion, the unread books in the library, the anti-library, is very important for a number of reasons. And I want to talk a little bit about these today. So first, all the things that we haven't read in our library reflect what we don't know. And there is always this interesting paradox, or this interesting duality between what we know and what we don't know, and what we don't know we don't know. And the world of knowledge to us is always perpetually incomplete. We will never know enough. Any knowledge system cannot be complete. And the books, all the books that we haven't read, remind us of this fact, how vast the world of knowledge is, how incomplete our knowledge is. And they should, in a sense, remind us of all the things we don't know. That's one side of looking at it. So it's the negative view of knowledge. It's pointing at this dark, hidden aspect of all the knowledge we don't know. But another aspect of the anti-library is about the future of our knowledge. This gap between what we know and what we might know in the future. And the anti-library is kind of a statement we are making, maybe to our current selves, but maybe to our future selves, that now, at this moment, when I buy these new books, this is the direction I want my knowledge to grow in. And it is an attempt, but it's always changing. It's always evolving. And this is the beauty of its reminder. Our plan, our vision of the future itself keeps changing as we add more and more books to this library. And Eco says another thing about the books. Well, he says perpetually there will be all these books that we don't read. But the person who assumes that they've read all the books in their own library are kind of looking at books as a consumer product. You consume it. You read it and you're done. But you can't really consume books. You have a relationship with them. And especially when we talk about good books. So you don't read it and that's it, it's done. Oh, sometimes you read it again with a new pair of eyes. Sometimes you don't read the whole thing, you read excerpts from it. I do this all the time. I'm walking around, I have books around. I take one, I sit for a while and go through a few paragraphs, a few chapters, and put it back. And the perspective keeps changing. And Eco also says something related to that. He says, well, sometimes we can treat books like medicine. And in your home, you have all these different medicines, and you can think about the book in the same way. So you need something. You need a specific medication at a specific time. But similarly, you might need a specific book at a specific point of time. And you go there, you pick that book, and this is not a random book. This book that you pick at a specific moment is the perfect book for that moment. And you sit with it, you talk to it, you listen to it. And this is what it means to have this relationship. This is what it means to think of the book as medicine. This is what Eco says. If we consider books as medicine, we understand that it is good to have many at home rather than a few. When you want to feel better, you go to the medicine closet and choose a book. Not a random one, but the right book for that moment. That's why you should always have a nutrition choice. Those who buy one book read only that one and then get rid of it. They simply apply the consumer mentality to books. That is, they consider them a consumer product, a good. But books cannot be a good in that sense. An interesting reflection here would be the paper library versus the electronic library. And I have both, but I noticed something. The anti-library in my, the books that I haven't read in the paper category is much, much bigger than that in the electronic category. And this is interesting. Well, it's obvious, but it's also interesting if you think about it, because one of them is shifting forever, shifting more easily, more attainable. While the paper one, the material one, there is this persistence quality to it. There is this long-term quality, aging quality to it. And perhaps this has to do with the idea, well, we said books as medicine, but there is also books as meditation. And sometimes you open a book, you read a few paragraphs, poetry book, a classic book, you read a few paragraphs, you already know them, but you read them in a different way, and you get absorbed, you get lost into it. And in a sense, the physical books, the library, and they have been a very persistent product. When ebooks in the early 2000s started becoming popular, many predicted that this might be the end of books, the end of the traditional paper-heavy book. But they have been surprisingly persistent, surprisingly survivors. Why is that? Well, in a sense, they are a physical manifestation of knowledge. Books and knowledge are not the same thing, but they are like a physical manifestation of knowledge. And that's nice. That's nice to have an object of knowledge. And so, because they are related with a more long-term view of how we like our knowledge to evolve, how we would think that our knowledge would change and grow with time, we are making that statement. And the acquisition of these books is like an attempt for us to chart a knowledge path based on our current personality. I have a personal reflection here that might be fun to close with. Years back, some people would say, "You're crazy about books, you love books." And then I would, rather angrily, as if I've been hurt, I would say, "No, it's not the books. It's not the books. The books are just a tool for knowledge acquisition. I'm interested in knowledge. I'm interested in learning more about the world." But after years of reflection and years of friendship with books, the relationship kind of changes. And we get disillusioned by knowledge as we grow up, as we see the boundaries as we see the limitations and as we explore other forms of being and understanding and feeling. And so I would say that in a sense, yes, it is about books. I've gone through a kind of personal evolution where I think that knowledge is incomplete. I mean, we pursue it. But our relationships with books can be great in and of themselves, even regardless of knowledge.